It is truly appalling to see how many people my age come out and discuss all the things they saw on kids shows back in the day that left a traumatizing effect on them. There's just such a huge number of these childhood trauma videos that comment on how many things there were in programs aimed at children that contain such horrifying elements. And they weren't even supposed to be horrifying. That's the weird thing. Some kids were disturbed by things like Barney the Dinosaur, some were scared of the show Mr. Meaty, and some were even reportedly frightened by Thomas the Tank Engine. Now, I always loved these shows growing up. I never felt any kind of unease or discomfort watching them. However, that doesn't mean that I'm immune to this problem that apparently afflicted the majority of kids exposed to television during their childhood. Let me direct your attention to the British children's program Teletubbies, a series that premiered in 1997 and lasted until 2001, with reruns appearing on American television throughout the 2000s. Teletubbies is an exception to the example of some kids finding things that most of their peers enjoyed to be scary, meaning that almost every kid that I know was at least slightly terrified of the Teletubbies. I mean, there's a lot of things to be disturbed by in this show. If the Teletubbies themselves don't leave you unsettled, then maybe the sun with a baby's face will. There's this infamous clip that apparently was so terrifying when it came out in the UK that it was edited for American audiences. It's this clip with a wooden lion and bear.
I'm the bear, with brown fuzzy hair.
I am the scary lion with big, scary teeth.
Now, this scene is most definitely something that plenty of kids would find uncanny and unsettling. The human subconscious naturally finds subjects like this discomforting, and psychological researchers like Freud and Masahiro Mori determined this disturbance to stem from something's shared characteristics with humans on a surface level, but with enough unrealistic design to trigger a response to the brain to perceive it as an anomaly, something that just isn't right, or doesn't feel right. When I look at clips like the lion and the bear scene, I don't really feel that sense of fear that others apparently feel, but this might be because I never saw this episode as a child. I'm very glad I didn't. However, there is something contained within Teletubbies that haunts my memories to this day. Something that caused an innumerable amount of psychological and mental scarring that no therapy, repression, or fruit snacks would get rid of. Something that will never exit my nightmares.
Just fucking look at it! How? How'd they get away with this? It's a fucking nightmare!
What you're looking at here is Noo-noo, the vacuum cleaner friend of the Teletubbies. Noo-noo is also the catalyst for the majority of my night terrors and early onset panic attacks I experienced around age 5. I can probably source the bulk of my anxiety issues all the way back to Noo-noo. Every time this Lovecraftian horror appeared on the screen, my blood pressure skyrocketed, my body trembled uncontrollably, and my pants were pissed on occasion. Every time the episode transitioned to the interior of, the Teletubbies house or whatever, I knew for certain that this fucking hellspawn was going to make an appearance. It got to the point where, every time I started watching a new episode, I prayed to Jesus that Noo-noo wouldn't be in the episode. I got on my knees and I prayed that I wouldn't be terrified that day. And back then I didn't even bother to learn this demon's name, I just called it the Scary Vacuum Monster. I'm not sure why I even continued to watch the show, considering almost every episode promised me nightmares thanks to Noo-noo. I have no idea why this thing frightened me so much. Maybe it's the eyes. The unblinking, soulless eyes that pierce you to the core. Or maybe it's the enormous vacuum cord that flies around aimlessly. Kid me had nightmares that I was being sucked up into its tube, into the dark abyss of nothing. I'm pretty sure that's a fetish now. Maybe it's just because I know vacuums aren't meant to be sentient. The main reason I'm making this video is not just to share my main source of childhood trauma. The real reason is that this is my method of coping with my fear of Noo-noo, and hopefully my way of confronting this fear to eradicate it for good. There are countless methodologies concerning fear confrontation. One of these is utilizing comedy and humor to make the subject you're afraid of significantly less frightening. Unfortunately, I'm not funny, so this method won't work. Some say that turning to faith or religious conviction can aid in overcoming fear. Well, Jesus never answered those prayers of keeping Noo-noo out of the show, so I don't think he's gonna help me now. Right now, I think the best way for me to personally get rid of this overwhelming fear of Noo-noo is to turn Noo-noo himself into something gratifying. Something that I can derive joy from instead of crippling anxiety. But how could I possibly obtain joy and pleasure from something so disturbing? Now that I take a closer examination, Noo-noo's vacuum tube is looking much more alluring than disturbing. You'll have to excuse me for a minute.
This is crack, rock cocaine. It isn't glamorous or cool or kid stuff. It's the most addictive kind of cocaine, and it can kill you.